The music industry is doomed. Behind all the flashy lights, red carpet appearances, and luxury lifestyle, there is a dark reality of the industry that nobody knows. A system built not just to exploit, but to corrupt, control, and destroy.
All of these big deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is, TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all.
One that transformed eager young artists into control assets through a series of increasingly disturbing tests and rituals.
It's called the boiled egg test. They could take a boiled egg, a raw boiled egg, have those guys put their pants down and bend over and they stick it up their ass. The eggs break, they say they're not ready yet. They ain't put enough work in.
This isn't just about music anymore. It's about systematic dehumanization. They don't want your talent. All they want is your soul. And this rabbit hole goes way deeper than we can ever think. Once you see it, you'll never look at the music industry the same way again. In the music industry, the path to stardom begins with a signature. One stroke of a pen that can either make you or break you. But what most artists don't realize is that this signature often marks the beginning of their systematic destruction. The music business plays this Jedi mind trick on you. The whole thing is set up to be rapacious and take advantage of your weakness. The numbers are staggering. Artists typically receive only 12 to 18% of their royalties, while record labels pocket the rest. But even those small percentages come with catches so numerous they form a web of financial entrapment. Take Meek Mill's story, a song that generated $24 million for his label. When he asked about his share, he was met with silence.
They do these 360 deals where it's like,
Right.
if you get a perfume deal, like your whole world,
They own you.
We own a piece of your whole world. And fame is such a great quotient in American life now that you can see where kids would trade fame and be willing to give away like the profit part.
This standard recording contract is far more than a business agreement. It's some that binds your whole life to the label. Hidden with dense legal jargon are clauses designed to strip artists of their creative autonomy, claim ownership of their intellectual property, keep them in perpetual debt, and control their public image and personal brand.
I wasn't really taking large advances from the recording companies. I was recording the albums myself in my own studio. So the way I looked at it, I owned the work because I paid for it. And I did all the work. I created it, so I felt like it should belong to me. That said, the companies felt otherwise, and they would always hold this contract up and say, well, you signed it.
These contracts are backed by a system that trap artists, and by the time artists realize what they've signed, they've already been caught in the web.
I wrote a record for Usher. The song came out. Let's say at the time the song streamed 70 million streams. If I own 20% of the song or 25% of the song, and it did 70 million streams, and it's $3,000 per million stream. So it's 3,000 times 70.
Right.
So 210,000. Spotify collects the streams, and then they pay the publishers. There's a fixed percentage on the publishing side based on the relationship between Spotify and the music publishers. So that $210,000 that song made had to be bust down. My take on that 210, my take home, was probably $1,500.
Let's break it down even more, and how just a deal can become a noose. So the first thing is a trap. You're a newbie craving for fame and money, and they use this as your weak point. They approach you and offer what seems like a life-changing money with a contract. And this very contract has 3 layers of control. What they tell you, the promise of fame, what you can see, the basic terms, what lies beneath, the real trap.
They got into ownership equity deals with the streaming services. In an arrangement for them to have an equity position, they agreed to very low rates for the artist's music. But as Spotify and the other streaming services raise up in their equity position, the labels benefit. So the labels pimped out their own artist.
Let's decode what this mean in real terms. When an artist's song gets 1 million streams, Spotify pays roughly $4,000 per million streams. The label takes their cut first, usually 80 to 85%. That leaves the artists with around $600 to $800. But even that doesn't go to them. It goes toward paying back their advance. Even with all that, the artists still won't be given ownership of their music. This is what's called the perpetual ownership clause included in the contract. It says that the label owns your music forever. They own the rights to every version, every remix, every performance, every future use of it.
It shouldn't be a situation where they own the album or the work. We're talking about intellectual copyright. If they're going to be indeed a delivery service, then that's fine. But even FedEx doesn't say that they own the thing that they ship.
Think about it. You can't afford to turn down shows. You can't say no to brand deals. You can't take creative risk. You can't escape the system. But here's where it gets truly dark. Once they own your work, once they control your income, once they have you trapped in their system, that's when the real development begins. The music industry does not just want artists. It wants vessels. Empty vessels it can fill with whatever serves its purpose. And the process of emptying these vessels begins early.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second.
But this is about systematic psychological conditioning. The industry identifies young, vulnerable talent and begins a careful process of isolation, dependence, and control. In 2002, Michael Jackson broke his silence about what he witnessed. He spoke of Mariah Carey coming to him in tears, trapped in a relationship with Sonny's then CEO Tommy Mottola. A relationship that was less about love and more about control.
Mariah Carey, after divorcing Tommy, came to me crying. She was crying so badly I had to hold her. And she said to me that this is an evil man. And Michael, this man follows me, she said. He taps her phones. And he's very, very evil, and she doesn't trust him. And he is a horrible human being. And we have to continue our drive until he's terminated.
The pattern is always the same. First, they isolate you from your support system. Family becomes a distraction. Old friends become bad influences. Suddenly, your only trusted advisors are industry people with vested interest in controlling you. Then comes the reshaping. Your image, your music, your personality, all carefully designed to serve the machine. Those who resist face consequences. Those who comply are rewarded with what seems like freedom, but it is actually just a longer leash. The industry's greatest trick is psychological imprisonment. They own your identity, they control your narrative, they decide when you're relevant and when you're not.
Like, for me, watching these guys, like these artists, and the things that they have going on outside of their music career, like, obviously that have nothing to do with me, because everybody have a life of their own. When I just saw that, I was like, man, he was just, for one, just holding the money over her head, just holding the power. And I don't know if that was the case, but that's just what it looked like.
But perhaps the most disturbing part, this isn't a broken system. This is the system working exactly as designed. A system that transforms vibrant young artists into control assets, strips them of their autonomy, and keeps them dependent through a combination of financial and psychological manipulation. And for those who try to speak out, well, that's where things get even darker. Stars who speak up often find themselves facing sudden controversies. Their new music mysteriously underperforms. Radio stations quietly remove their songs from rotation. It's death by 1,000 cuts, all while maintaining plausible deniability. Think about it. How many artists have you seen go from industry darlings to difficult or unstable the moment they question the system? This is strategy. The message is clear: stay in line or we'll erase you. Even megastars aren't immune.
Just days before the U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003, the Chicks were performing a concert in London when lead singer Natalie Maines said this.
We do not want war, violence. We're ashamed of President of the United States.
Many felt the criticism of the president was un-American, and their once loyal country radio fans were outraged.
One specific death threat on Natalie. Had a time, had a place, had a weapon, I mean, everything. Yeah. You will be shot dead.
Stations stopped playing their music, album sales dropped, and ticket sales plummeted.
After 2017's Reputation, Swift changed labels to Universal Music Group's Republic Records. In her post, she explains, "For years I asked, pleaded for a chance to own my work. Instead, I was given an opportunity to sign back up to Big Machine Records and earn one album back at a time, one for every new one I turned in." Swift goes on to say she walked away from the offer because she was confident Scott Borchetta would sell the label once she signed the contract. Borchetta released a statement Sunday saying both Swift and her father, a shareholder in Big Machine, were informed of the deal beforehand. He also shared a screenshot of a different deal he says Swift asked for, turning the music over to her in a 7-year deal, with Big Machine reportedly agreeing but asking for a 10-year period. Attorney and musician Robert Baldori points out that while artists may just be beginning their careers when negotiating contracts, the labels have been dealing with them for decades.
When Prince wrote "slave" on his face and changed his name to a symbol, people thought he lost his mind. The truth? He was protesting Warner Brothers' ownership of his name, his music, his very identity.
The reason why it became such a big deal back then is ever since my third album, I wasn't really taking large advances from the recording companies. I was recording the albums myself in my own studio. So the way I looked at it, I owned the work because I paid for it. And I did all the work, I created it, so I felt like it should belong to me. That said, the companies felt otherwise, and they would always hold this contract up and say, well, you signed it. And I say, well, I understand that. It's not like I want to leave. I just want to, talk about this thing and see if we can't make it more fair. Of course, they wouldn't change, because if they changed, they wouldn't really exist. And that's kind of the situation we're in right today.
But perhaps most chilling is what we don't hear. The countless artists who stay silent, who understand that their careers, their dreams, their very livelihoods hang by a thread controlled by people who see them as products, to be managed, exploited, and if necessary, disposed of. This system of silence and control shapes the entire culture of music. It determines what we hear, what we don't hear, and most importantly, what stories never get told. And yet, this is just the surface, because beneath this web of control and manipulation lies something even more sinister. A world of ritualistic abuse and trauma that the industry doesn't just hide, it celebrates. Behind the velvet ropes and VIP sections, there's another level of control. It's a world of initiation rites disguised as industry traditions, of power plays masked as parties, of rituals that break artists down to their very core. What makes the system so effective is its layered nature. Level 1, the business exploitation. Level 2, the psychological control. Level 3, the ritualistic degradation. Each level strips away another layer of the artist's identity, their autonomy, their basic human dignity. By the time they reach the inner circles, many are so broken they become enforcers themselves, perpetuating the cycle on the next generation of hopefuls. The industry's greatest achievement is making all these practices normal and aspirational. Getting invited to these private parties is seen as making it. Being chosen for these rituals is treated as an honor. But there is a cost, a deep, soul-crushing cost that manifests in ways that become impossible to hide. Look at the patterns. Sudden personality changes, mysterious breakdowns,
I just want to be honest with the crowd, and I just feel like I just feel a little off today because
Unexplained absences.
But there's a noticeable absence, a void that's hard to ignore. A giant is missing from the scene, leaving fans in the industry wondering, where is Kanye West, the multi-talented artist who was more than just a rapper?
They're symptoms of a systematic trauma so profound it can't be contained. And for those who think they can play the game without getting burned, those who believe they can explore this dark web without losing themselves, well, that's where our next chapter begins. The industry has perfected a system where victim becomes both prisoner and warden. Once artists reach a certain level, they face a brutal choice: become part of the machine that broke you or lose everything you sacrificed so much to gain.
And when an artist signs to a major label, it's safe to say that their death is in many ways factored into the initial investment. And in many ways, after an artist has peaked in popularity, there becomes an awkward point in their career where the artist is worth more to them dead than alive.
Mad at him due to the business that he did.
Yeah.
And I can't even say mad is that they didn't have a part of it. Let's be real. I'm gonna say it out there straight for everybody listening. My uncle didn't die. He was murdered. I feel the same thing about Prince. We're losing a lot of stars because you have to remember, these are basically insurance policies. When he dies, whatever was owned by the company reverts back. We're not talking about $100,000. We're not talking about $1 million. We're talking about billions of dollars. Notice that when my uncle dies, why do you hear all his music? Why is there a Motown cartoon out now? Okay, well, obviously when my uncle was alive, he wasn't giving the rights to anybody. But when he dies, all of a sudden,
It's pretty incredible to me that all of us have kind of heard this anecdote about musicians dying at a young age, but every time this happens, nobody casts an ounce of skepticism about this kind of thing, or how much these people are worth dead. That, in my opinion, is the true dark side of the music industry.
Look at the patterns in plain sight. Young artists enter looking vibrant, authentic, full of life. Then comes the development phase. Watch their interviews, before and after. Notice the dead eyes, the rehearsed answers, the careful phrasing. But the real price is existential. The wealth they display, borrowed. The persona they project, manufactured. The freedom they claim they have, an illusion.
What was the biggest shock for either of you guys when you got to the industry?
Half the industry is broke. And that shocked me.
That's a good one.
I would see celebrities. I would be around celebrities, rappers, no offense, but a bunch of them that's like wearing all the big jewelry or on Instagram. It's all a facade.
It's rentals.
It's rentals.
It's rentals. It's like Miami. Whenever they rent the cars and drive around or whatever and then like return them.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Lambos?
Yeah,
it's
all the Lambos, yeah.
Or even with jewelry.
The true horror story is that they're trapped, and they have to pretend that they're free. Have to maintain the illusion that keeps luring in new victims. Have to smile while signing away pieces of their soul. Think about it. Why do so many stars, despite millions of streams, despite sold-out shows, despite merchandise lines and endorsement deals, end up broke?
You struggle to get the contract, and then the contract is sort of, the indentured servitude type of thing. Our first contract was 7 albums, essentially 14 years. So I signed that contract when I was 23.
That's crazy.
Okay, so I'm signing, at 23 years old, I'm signing a contract that's supposed to take me into 37.
You're signing a contract for more than half your life.
And if you look at the shelf life of most artists, it's 4 to... So they're basically anticipating your entire arc.
That's so crazy.
So you don't have any leverage, other than that they want to sign you. You sign the deal, and then it becomes this weird dance of like, can I sustain success?
The system is about keeping them dependent, keeping them desperate, keeping them controlled. But perhaps the most terrifying part, this system is expanding. The methods are getting more sophisticated. The control is becoming more complete. And as we enter the new digital age, with algorithms controlling what we hear and AI reshaping how music is made, the industry's grip is only getting stronger, because what's happening now might be the most disturbing development yet. What we're witnessing is evolution into something far more insidious. The digital age has created new forms of bondage.
Google fired its entire YouTube Music team while the employees were in the middle of testifying before the Austin City Council. A group of less than 50 employees were testifying about their unionization efforts when they were informed of their sudden termination.
They just laid us all off.
The message? Even the platform suggests democratizing music are a part of the same system. The numbers tell the story. Spotify streams, 1 billion plays might earn you pocket change, record deals. Now they want your TikTok, your Instagram, your entire digital existence. Independence? Try competing with algorithms programmed to promote industry-backed artists. Look no further than the deals that record labels cut with streaming services, an industry veteran reveals. They got ownership equity deals. The labels pimped out their own artists to take greater equal position in a rising business. The modern twist? They don't just own your music anymore. They own your social media presence, your personal brand, your digital footprint, even your future potential earnings.
Today, Ray Daniels tweeted that about 50 artists and label execs were laid off from Atlantic Records.
The industry is transforming. Every crisis, every technological shift, every market change is used to tighten control, to create new forms of dependency. The sad truth is most of your favorite artists right now are broke. They're trapped, they're controlled, and the system that holds them is getting stronger, not weaker. So what's the solution? Perhaps it's time to ask ourselves, what kind of music culture do we want? One controlled by corporations that see artists as products, or one where creativity and authenticity can actually survive? Because until we change how we consume music, how we value artists, how we engage with the culture, nothing will change. The machine will keep grinding, the rituals will keep happening, and somewhere right now another young artist is picking up a pen, about to sign away their soul